This is one day later. The poor black ear is doing okay, swimming around and nobody bothers it. It's missing most of its tail. It's pretty hard to see. I mean, not physically, emotionally very hard to see. And fine size Kuma has survived the night. I had to stick that pipe in there to stress everybody out a little bit. It's a bad feeling overall. First of all, I put this fish together. It's not Kuma's. It's not piraiba's fault. It's just going on instincts. So I put this fish together, but overall I just can't help it. I feel horrible, not only because I put them together and I'm responsible ultimately, but also because I was feeding really hard the tank, because we switched to new foods, as I said, and I was bending backwards trying to get the piraiba to eat its fill, feeding this tank really heavy, but I never caught it take new feed. No matter how much I tried, how long the food was laying around, it never took it. And then just find it decided to go after a tank main and rip its tail off. Instead of eating the food I threw in for it, that was laying around for half a day waiting for it to be eaten. But no, the fun size Kuma would not eat big mullet, would not eat mackerel laying around. Nope. The whole month he was holding out and then ripped the tail off of his tank mate. That makes me feel pretty bad too. Just total failure. This has been a long time coming. I had to take out the Peru piraiba out of this tank. Just by accident I caught it in action. It got a hold of the black ear iridescent shark tail, and that's what's left of it. It's pretty much missing most of the tail, both lobes. So I had enough of it and just caught it. That's why everything is wet. And put it in a jumbo tank. This fish is so hard to keep with other fish. If it was alone or with fish it cannot possibly harm, then it'd be easier. But with smaller fish, like in the less aggressive 4500, it was very hard. The reason being is it's very skittish, very hesitant at the feeding times, very finicky and moody, and at the same time it's highly predatory. Same as paroons, as I always say. We recently had to stop buying finger mullet in the same quantity we had been buying it, because it's much more expensive, $2.50 per pound. And we switched to big mullet, 75 cents a pound, and also to mackerel at $1.50 a pound. So for the last month I was winning everybody onto this. I mean, they had it before, it's not completely new to them, and this fish also had it before, the piraiba. But he was, I guess he just wouldn't take much, or nothing, take nothing. So I've been seeing bite marks on some of the catfish on their tails. That's what the piraiba does. It cannot Sometimes it bites them in other places, but mostly on the tail when it tries to hunt for them and eat them, even though it can't. But it doesn't know any better. So after all these years, I've had enough of it, and we'll see how it does in the jumbo tank. I'm pretty sure the Indian shovelnose will take a dislike to it, like it hated the previous, the Suriname piraiba, the 5-footer one. But other than that, I hope everything will be fine. It put up a hell of a fight, and it's a very, very strong fish. It's over 3 feet long. Very powerful swimmer with a huge tail. It can thrust itself with a lot of force. So I'm all wet. The floor is wet, the tanks are wet. It was pulling so hard. I mean, if I was inside the tank, it would probably pull me behind itself. Well, thankfully this transfer wasn't so bad. I mean, it got exhausted in the net, so I was able to just, I didn't even have time to put it in the plastic sack. I kept it in this rough net, landing net, which is usually very, very hard on catfish, but the fun size Kuma, as we call her, or call him, fun size Kuma is what Ethan, the coolie loach trainer, invented the name for it. It fought so hard that it got exhausted, so I was able to just lift it up in the net. Felt like about, I want to say 25 pounds, maybe 20 pounds, maybe 30. No, I think more 20, more like 20, 25, we'll call it. I lifted out of water in the net and brought it here, and almost all the way to the new tank. There's only 20 feet separate them, or 25 feet. Started struggling right here, and when I had remaining couple of feet to cover, it started flipping in the, or flopping in the net. But still, there is very little damage for all this violence. I mean, its snout will be healing for a while because it was pushing with its snout very, very hard against the net. As I said, it would have pulled me in the water if I was in the water, not outside of the tank, holding on to the net with two hands. But the fins and the fine and the spines seem to be okay. That's the main thing. There is one deep rip in the caudal fin in the tail, and some smaller rips in the pelvic fins and one pectoral fin, but it wasn't like doing this death roll, which usually snaps their pectoral spines and sometimes dorsal spine. So overall, this transfer went much better than I thought it could. My back is blown right now, so I couldn't handle this. I'm barely walking. After yesterday's 2 rescues, I lifted a heavy cooler and there it went. And my wife is busy, so I had nobody to help me transfer it into the plastic sack, which I normally do to spare the fish a lot of superficial damage. But this one alright. The poor black here, that sucks big time. I hope nobody bothers it and it grows its tail now back safely, and I can worry a little less about all the smaller fish in here that could have fallen victim to piraiba. It's used to biting this marble pims, which are very docile. They don't answer back. It likes to bite the iridescent sharks and the black hair sharks because again they're very timid. They don't answer back. I don't think, once in a while it would bite red tails, like that Mike and Amanda's red tail bite on the tail. That's from piraiba, from pretty much yesterday or today. No, yesterday or the day before yesterday. Very fresh. So it mostly chose catfish, and not all catfish, but some catfish, the ones I'm naming, to try and hunt when it got hungry. We have just adopted out the other old dwarf black iridescent shark. So this is our one and only remaining, and now it's almost tailless. Well, anyway, that's the big happening of tonight, February 3rd, 2025. The beautiful, the difficult and stupid piraiba. A hard fish to keep with other fish. Forgot to mention that the reason for the at least recent several months of delay of transferring it, of getting it out of the less aggressive 4500, was because I'm getting prepared to transfer all the jumbos into the 25,000. So I thought there is little sense in putting fun size Kuma in the jumbo and then catching it out again and putting it in the 25,000. But what just happened forced it, and I'm not ready yet. I'm close to it, but not ready to transfer the jumbos to the 25,000, which is a huge risk in itself, but it looks like I'm willing to try it. Man, it's a strong fish. I've never tested its strength, and now that I have, I'm very impressed how one can do this with such a small body mass, but jerk a 185-pound man around like that when you only weigh 25 pounds. The burst speed and is amazing of them due to that huge tail surface.